My name is Jack Miller. I'm 34, a single dad, and honestly, just trying to keep life stitched together one day at a time. Raising my daughter Lily on my own hasn't been easy since her mom walked out when Lily was barely 2. I've been working handyman jobs, electrical work, plumbing, whatever keeps food on the table. It's not glamorous, but I'm proud that my little girl has never gone to bed hungry. That Friday night, the storm hit harder than I expected. Winds howled like wolves, rain battered against our little rented house, and the power snapped off across half the town. Lily curled up under her blanket, whispering, "Daddy, it's so dark." I reassured her, kissed her forehead, and told her everything would be fine. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. It was a woman's voice, confident, sharp, and all business. "Mr. Miller, this is Madison Carter, CEO of Carter Enterprises. Our backup generator failed last night, and I've been told you're the man who can fix it." I'd heard of her, everyone had. Madison wasn't just a CEO, she was the CEO. Smart, fearless, and one of the most powerful women in our state. I didn't know why someone like her would call me out of all people, but I wasn't about to say no. By the time I arrived at her corporate headquarters, a whole team of employees was standing outside, panicked about their systems being down. And there she was, Madison Carter herself, a tall, striking woman with dark hair pulled into a sleek bun, wearing heels that probably cost more than my truck. Her eyes met mine, and for a second it felt like she saw right through me. Then she smirked and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "All right, Mr. Miller, if you can fix that generator before lunch, I'll kiss you right here in front of my entire staff." The crowd gasped. My heart nearly stopped. And in that moment, I wasn't sure if this was a job offer or the beginning of something I couldn't possibly be ready for. I stood there frozen, the rain still dripping from my jacket as Madison Carter's words echoed in my head. "Fix the generator before lunch, and I'll kiss you right here in front of everyone." The employees laughed nervously, some exchanging looks, others whispering. A kiss? Was she joking? Or was this her way of testing me? Of mocking the fact that I was just a local handyman with grease under my fingernails while she was a CEO worth millions? I cleared my throat and tried to act unfazed. "Ma'am, I didn't come here for games. I came here to work." Madison tilted her head, those sharp hazel eyes narrowing in on me. "Exactly. And I want to see how serious you are. You see, Mr. Miller, I don't like excuses. I like results. My entire operation is down and my team is standing here powerless. Literally. If you can do what 3 licensed electricians failed to do last night, then maybe you deserve a reward." Her voice was confident, but I noticed something else. Beneath her commanding tone, there was tension. This wasn't just about power for the building. Something important had been lost in that blackout. "Fine," I said, tightening my grip on my tool bag. "Where's the generator?" She smiled faintly, as if she'd been waiting for me to say that. "Follow me." The employees parted as she led me through the rain toward the massive steel generator shed at the back of the property. I could feel dozens of eyes burning into me, half waiting for me to fail, half curious if Madison would really keep her word. Inside the shed, the smell of burned wiring and diesel filled the air. The generator was huge, at least twice the size of any I'd worked on before. I crouched down, popped the side panel, and instantly saw the problem: fried circuits, miswired repairs, and damage from last night's surge. "This won't be easy," I muttered. Madison crossed her arms, leaning casually against the steel wall. "I never said it would be. But if you're as good as people claim, prove it. Show me you can bring this beast back to life." Her eyes locked on mine, daring me. For the first time in a long while, I felt more than just the pressure of a job. I felt like my pride, my reputation, maybe even my heart, were on the line. I dropped to my knees in front of the generator, pulling tools from my worn-out bag. My hands moved automatically, years of fixing broken machines guiding me. But the weight of Madison's gaze lingered like a challenge I couldn't shake. The first thing I noticed was sloppy patchwork. Someone had tried to fix this before, but they'd only made it worse. Wrong wires connected, a half-burned fuse shoved back in place. No wonder the system collapsed. I wiped sweat from my forehead, muttering, "Whoever worked on this had no business near a generator." Behind me, Madison's voice was sharp. 3 certified electricians worked on it last night. Each one came highly recommended. I paused, then glanced back at her. Sometimes certifications don't mean skill. Sometimes it's about grit, and knowing what's at stake. For the first time, her confident expression faltered. She looked at me like I'd just peeled back a layer of her armor, but she quickly recovered, smirking. Big words for a small-town handyman. Maybe, I shot back, but small-town handymen actually get the lights back on. That made a few employees chuckle nervously from outside. Madison straightened her posture, glaring at them until the laughter died instantly. She was used to control, to authority. But right now, standing in that steel shed, it was just me and her, and the storm raging outside. I replaced the fried fuse and began rewiring the system carefully. Each spark that popped reminded me of the risk. If I slipped, if I miscalculated, the entire generator could explode, or worse. My daughter's face flashed in my mind. Lily depended on me. I had no room for failure. "You've got steady hands," Madison said suddenly, her tone softer now. I didn't look up. "You have to, when your kid's life depends on them." Silence followed. When I finally glanced up, I caught her watching me differently, not as some lowly handyman, but as a man carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. The storm outside roared louder, but in that moment, the tension between us was louder still. The generator hummed faintly as I tightened the last bolt on a rewired connection. It wasn't fixed yet, but progress was showing. I grabbed my tester, leaned in, and checked the voltage levels. Close, real close. Behind me, I felt Madison pacing. Her heels clicked sharply against the concrete floor, a rhythm of impatience and nerves. She kept glancing at her phone, swiping at messages, then tucking it away like she didn't want anyone to see. "You seem worried," I said without looking up. Her voice was clipped. "My company runs on deadlines. A single hour without power costs us thousands. That's why this matters." I paused, set my tool down, and looked at her fully. "That's not the only reason." Her lips parted like she might deny it, but then she pressed them together, silent. For the first time, I saw something raw flicker in her eyes. Fear? Pressure? Pain? It was gone in an instant, replaced by her usual steel composure. "You fix machines," she said coolly, "not people." I gave a half smile. Sometimes they're not so different. For a moment, the shed went quiet except for the patter of rain. I turned back to the generator, hands steady as I reconnected the final set of wires. Sparks jumped, the kind that would make most people flinch, but I held firm. Then the low, powerful rumble of the generator starting up filled the space. From outside, the employees erupted in cheers as lights flickered on inside the building. The entire headquarters had power again. I exhaled slowly, brushing soot from my hands. There. She's alive. When I turned, Madison was staring at me, not with mockery, not even with smug satisfaction. No, her expression was unreadable, like I'd just surprised her in a way she didn't want to admit. The team rushed over, clapping my back, thanking me. Madison raised her hand, silencing them instantly. She stepped forward, heels clicking until she stood just inches from me. "You did it," she said softly, her eyes never leaving mine. "And you remember what I promised." The air thickened. My heart pounded. Every employee's eyes were locked on us, and for the first time I wondered, was she really going to do it? The air in that shed was electric, and not just from the generator humming behind me. Madison Carter, CEO, Powerhouse, and the woman who just dared me in front of her entire company, was standing so close I could smell the faint trace of her perfume. "You remember what I promised," she repeated, her voice low enough that only I could hear. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. Every single employee had their eyes glued to us, holding their breath. My pulse was racing. I hadn't been this close to a woman in years, not since Lily's mom left. Madison tilted her head, the corner of her mouth twitching like she was enjoying every second of my discomfort. "Well, Mr. Miller, should I keep my word?" The crowd gasped softly. I could feel the heat crawling up my neck, but I forced a small smile. "That depends. Are you a woman of your word, or was this just a way to humiliate me?" Her eyes flashed with something sharp, but also intrigued. She leaned in, so close I could feel her breath against my cheek. My chest tightened, my mind screaming, "What the hell is happening right now?" Just as the moment stretched unbearably thin, her phone buzzed. She froze. For a split second, frustration flickered across her face before she pulled back. The employees quickly turned away, pretending to busy themselves with work. She glanced at the screen, her jaw tightening. "Excuse me," she muttered, stepping outside. I stood there, heart still pounding, trying to steady my breathing. The kiss hadn't happened, but the weight of almost made it worse. My hands shook, not from nerves over the generator, but from her. An older employee, a gray-haired man in a blue suit, chuckled quietly. "Son, you don't know what you've gotten yourself into." I raised an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" He gave me a knowing smile. "Madison Carter doesn't let people close. Ever. You've just stepped into uncharted territory." I stared after her as she disappeared into the rain, phone pressed to her ear, her shoulders tense. Something told me this wasn't just about a broken generator anymore. Something deeper was at play, and I was already in the middle of it. I stayed in the shed longer than I needed, cleaning my tools, pretending to be busy. The truth, I was trying to calm down. My chest was still tight from how close Madison had leaned in, from the almost that didn't happen. By the time I stepped outside, the storm had slowed to a drizzle. Madison stood beneath the covered walkway, phone pressed to her ear, speaking in a low but firm tone. I caught bits and pieces, something about deadlines, stockholders, and someone pushing too hard. When she noticed me watching, she ended the call abruptly and slipped her phone into her blazer pocket. Her mask of control snapped back into place, but I'd already seen it, the crack in her armor. "You handled yourself well," she said, walking toward me. "Most men would have buckled under that kind of pressure." I shrugged. "Pressure doesn't scare me. Life throws enough of it at you already." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You've been through things." I gave a half smile. "Haven't we all?" For a moment she studied me like I was a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. Then she motioned toward the building. "Come inside. You deserve more than a thank you in the rain." Inside, the lobby gleamed with polished marble floors and modern art that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Employees bustled around, whispering, some sneaking glances at me. Word of the Kiss Challenge was spreading like wildfire. Madison led me to her office on the top floor. The moment I stepped inside, I understood why she commanded so much respect. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and her desk was stacked with neatly organized files. Yet despite all that power, she looked restless, like the walls were closing in. "You should send me the invoice," she said, sitting gracefully in her chair. "Whatever your rate is, I'll double it." I shook my head. "You don't need to double anything. I charge what I charge. That's fair." Her brows lifted, as if no one had ever refused extra money from her. "Most men would take what they could get from me." I leaned forward slightly, meeting her gaze. "I'm not most men." For the first time all day, Madison Carter smiled. Not the sharp, commanding smile she gave her staff, but something real. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't just testing my skills. She was testing me. Madison's office felt like another world, quiet, polished, untouchable. I stood awkwardly by the window while she tapped something on her computer. For a man who usually worked in basements, garages, and construction sites, this place felt like stepping onto another planet. "Sit," she said finally, gesturing to the leather chair across from her desk. I did, though I felt out of place. She picked up the phone, pressed a button, and a moment later an assistant walked in with 2 cups of coffee on a tray. Madison didn't even have to say what she wanted. The assistant set the cups down and left. Madison leaned back, crossing her legs, eyes on me. "Tell me, Mr. Miller, how does a single father with no corporate connections become the only man in this city who could fix what 3 professionals couldn't?" I chuckled softly. "Experience and desperation." Her brows arched. "Desperation?" I took a sip of coffee. It was richer than anything I'd ever bought. When you've got a daughter to raise alone, you learn fast. You don't have the luxury of failure. Every mistake means bills unpaid, food skipped, lights out. So yeah, I guess desperation taught me what textbooks didn't. For a moment her expression softened, though she tried to mask it. "And your daughter? How old is she?" 7, I said, smiling at the thought of Lily. "She's the reason I get up every morning. Smart, stubborn, way too curious for her own good. She's everything." Madison's eyes lingered on me, longer than before. Then she looked away, staring out the window. "You're lucky to have someone worth fighting for." Her tone was so faint I almost missed it. "Don't you?" I asked gently. Her jaw tightened. "No. In my world, attachments are liabilities. People betray. Love is temporary. Control is the only thing that lasts." I studied her, realizing this woman who stood so tall, commanding everyone around her, was also someone who'd built walls higher than anyone dared to climb. And for some reason, she'd let me see through a crack in those walls. The next morning, I returned to the Carter Enterprises building. Madison had insisted on a follow-up inspection to ensure the generator stayed stable. Truthfully, I wasn't sure if she needed me, or if she just wanted an excuse. As I walked through the lobby, I felt the shift in the air. Employees whispered as I passed, their voices low but not low enough. "That's him, the handyman from yesterday. Did you see the way she looked at him? Do you think she really would have kissed him?" I kept my head down, pretending not to hear, though the heat climbed up my neck. I wasn't used to being the center of attention, especially not in a skyscraper full of suits and professionals. The elevator ride to the top floor felt like forever. When the doors opened, Madison's assistant was waiting. A tall, sharp-eyed woman with a clipboard. She studied me like I was a problem she needed to solve. "Mr. Miller," she said briskly, "Ms. Carter's expecting you. But a word of advice, whatever game you think you're playing, don't. Madison Carter doesn't get involved." I frowned. "I'm just here to work." She gave a skeptical hum, then opened the office door for me. Inside, Madison was at her desk, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly undone. She looked less like the untouchable CEO and more like a woman who hadn't slept. "You're early," she said, glancing up. "Storm damage waits for no one," I replied, setting my bag down. Her lips twitched like she wanted to smile but thought better of it. She stood, walked to the window, and folded her arms. "They're talking, you know. My staff. About yesterday." I tightened a screw on the tester kit. "Let them talk." She turned, eyes sharp. "It matters what they say. My reputation is everything. One slip, and competitors will devour me." I met her gaze steadily. "Then why make the bet in the first place?" Her silence spoke volumes. She dared me to fix that generator for reasons that went beyond company image. And as she stood there, staring at me like she was both infuriated and fascinated, I realized the rumors weren't just whispers in the hall. They were fuel on a fire neither of us knew how to stop. By late afternoon, the generator check was done, and everything was stable. I packed my tools, ready to head out, when Madison's voice stopped me. "Jack," she said, softer than usual. It was the first time she'd used my first name. I turned. "Yeah?" She hesitated. Madison Carter, the woman who never seemed to hesitate, then finally spoke. "Join me for dinner tonight." For a second I thought I misheard. "Dinner? With you?" She smirked faintly. "Don't look so shocked. You earned it. Consider it a thank you for saving my company from a disaster." I chuckled. "Pretty sure you already doubled my rate." Her eyes locked on mine. Money isn't the only form of gratitude. The way she said it sent a chill through me. My gut told me this was more than a simple thank you, but I nodded slowly. "All right, where?" "Carter Tower, 8 o'clock. She turned back to her desk as if the matter were settled, dismissing me with the wave of her hand. The rest of the day felt like a blur. I went home, showered, tried to find something decent in my closet that didn't scream, "single dad on a budget." Lily sat cross-legged on the bed, watching me with her big brown eyes. "Daddy, why are you wearing this shirt you never wear?" she asked with a grin. I ruffled her hair. "Because I've got a meeting tonight." "Is it with a girl?" she teased, her voice sing-song. I froze, then laughed awkwardly. "Maybe, just maybe." Her smile widened. "Then you have to brush your hair. Girls like that." By the time I arrived at Carter Tower, the city skyline glowed against the night. Madison's private dining suite was nothing like I expected. Intimate, candlelit, overlooking the glittering streets below. She was already seated, her sleek black dress catching the light, every bit the image of power, and something more. When her eyes met mine, I realized this dinner wasn't business, it was personal. Dinner with Madison Carter wasn't like any meal I'd ever had. The table was set with silver cutlery, crystal glasses, and dishes I couldn't even pronounce. I sat stiffly at first, worried I'd pick up the wrong fork or spill something on my only decent shirt. Madison, on the other hand, was different. Not the commanding CEO barking orders, not the woman smirking as she dared me in front of her staff. Tonight she was quieter, her sharp edges softened. "You seem uncomfortable," she said, sipping her wine. I laughed nervously. "That obvious, huh?" "A little, but don't be. You're not here to impress me, Jack. You already did that." Her words caught me off guard. By fixing a generator? Her eyes lingered on me, steady and unblinking. By not being afraid of me. By standing your ground when most men would have folded. I shifted in my seat, unsure how to respond. Compliments weren't something I got often, at least not from women like her. Dinner carried on, conversation flowing more easily than I expected. She asked about Lily, about how I managed life as a single dad. I told her the truth, the struggles, the long nights, the moments of doubt. And she listened, really listened, like no one had in a long time. When I asked about her life, she was more guarded. She spoke of the company, the constant competition, the need to always be 3 steps ahead. But beneath her words, I sensed loneliness, like success had cost her more than she let on. At one point, she leaned back, swirling the wine in her glass. "Do you know what people say about me?" I shrugged. "That you're ruthless. That you never let anyone in. That you don't lose." Her lips curved faintly. "All true, but it's exhausting, Jack. Being untouchable all the time." The vulnerability in her voice startled me. It was like watching a fortress lower its gates for just a second. And in that second, I didn't see Madison Carter, the CEO. I saw Madison, the woman. The dinner stretched longer than I expected. Hours passed, but I didn't notice. Madison was nothing like the headlines painted her to be. Beneath the power suits and sharp words was someone who craved something real, though she'd never admit it. At one point, she set her glass down and looked at me in a way that made my chest tighten. "Jack, tell me the truth. When I made that ridiculous bet in front of my team, did you think I was mocking you?" I leaned back, meeting her eyes. "At first, yeah. I thought you wanted to humiliate the small-town handyman. But then, I saw something else." Her brow arched. And what was that? Someone who was testing herself more than she was testing me. For a moment, silence hung between us. Then she exhaled slowly, almost like she'd been holding her breath all night. "You're smarter than you look." I grinned. "And you're warmer than you look." That earned me a real laugh. Not the polite corporate kind. A genuine, unguarded laugh that lit up her face. I caught myself staring, wondering how a woman who seemed so untouchable could look so human in the glow of candlelight. By the time dessert came, the air between us had shifted. It wasn't just dinner anymore, it was something more, something fragile, dangerous even. When I walked her to the private elevator afterward, she paused, her hand lingering on the button. "You've complicated things for me, Jack." "How so?" I asked quietly. Her eyes searched mine. The dinner stretched longer than I expected. Hours passed, but I didn't notice. Madison was nothing like the headlines painted her to be. Beneath the power suits and sharp words was someone who craved something real, though she'd never admit it. At one point, she set her glass down and looked at me in a way that made my chest tighten. "Jack, tell me the truth. When I made that ridiculous bet in front of my team, did you think I was mocking you?" I leaned back, meeting her eyes. "At first, yeah, I thought you wanted to humiliate the small-town handyman, but then I saw something else." Her brow arched. "And what was that?" "Someone who was testing herself more than she was testing me." For a moment, silence hung between us. Then she exhaled slowly, almost like she'd been holding her breath all night. "You're smarter than you look." I grinned. "And you're warmer than you look." That earned me a real laugh. Not the polite corporate kind. A genuine, unguarded laugh that lit up her face. I caught myself staring, wondering how a woman who seemed so untouchable could look so human in the glow of candlelight. By the time dessert came, the air between us had shifted. It wasn't just dinner anymore. It was something more, something fragile, dangerous even. When I walked her to the private elevator afterward, she paused, her hand lingering on the button. "You've complicated things for me, Jack." "How so?" I asked quietly. Her eyes searched mine, almost like she was daring herself to say what she really felt. But instead she whispered, "Because you make me forget who I'm supposed to be." Before I could respond, the elevator doors opened. She stepped inside, her face composed again, the mask sliding back into place. "Good night, Jack," she said, voice steady. But the look in her eyes told a different story. And as I watched the doors close, I realized the lines between us weren't just blurred anymore, they were breaking. The next day, I was back on site at Carter Enterprises, finishing a few routine checks on the power lines. But the atmosphere had changed. Everywhere I went, I caught people whispering, their glances darting my way. "Is he still here? Why does she want him around so much? Do you think the rumors are true?" It didn't take a genius to figure out what they were whispering about. When I stepped into the lobby, the assistant from before, sharp-eyed, clipboard in hand, intercepted me. She crossed her arms, lowering her voice so no one else could hear. "Mr. Miller, I'll say this once. Stay in your lane. Whatever you think is happening between you and Ms. Carter, it isn't. And if it is, it won't end well for you." I frowned. "I didn't come here to chase Madison. I came here to work." Her eyes narrowed. "Good. Then keep it that way." She walked off briskly, leaving me standing there, pulse pounding. The warning echoed in my head. Later that afternoon, Madison called me into her office. She looked different, tired, tense, like she hadn't slept. The moment the door shut, she dropped the corporate mask. "They're talking, aren't they?" she asked, her voice low. I nodded. "Yeah. Seems like everyone's got an opinion." Her hands tightened on the edge of her desk. "This is exactly what I wanted to avoid. Jack, my world is full of vultures. They're waiting for me to show weakness, to slip even an inch. And if they think I'm distracted by you—" "You're not distracted," I cut in. "You're human." Her eyes snapped up, meeting mine. For a moment, her armor cracked again. "I can't afford to be human," she whispered. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Maybe that's the problem." The air between us grew heavy, thick with something unspoken. She didn't move, didn't push me away. Instead, she held my gaze like she was silently asking me a question she didn't dare speak aloud. And I knew then, this wasn't just about business or rumors or even pride. This was about her heart fighting against her own rules. That night I couldn't sleep. Madison's words, "I can't afford to be human," kept echoing in my head. I understood her fear. In her world, weakness was blood in the water. But part of me wished she could see what I saw, that letting someone in wasn't weakness at all. The next morning, when I arrived at the building, chaos had already erupted. A competitor's article had hit the news, speculating about Madison's mystery handyman. They painted her as reckless, unprofessional, even desperate. As I walked in, heads turned sharply. Whispers followed. Madison's assistant intercepted me again, this time angrier. "Do you see what you've done? She's being torn apart out there because of you." Before I could respond, Madison's office door slammed open. She stood there, phone in hand, her expression unreadable. Her eyes flicked from her assistant to me. "Jack, inside, now." The door shut behind us, sealing us in her office. She paced the room, her heels clicking like gunfire against the marble floor. "They're coming for me," she muttered. "Stockholders, the press, even my own board is circling like sharks. All because I—" She stopped, her voice breaking. "Because I let you get too close." I stepped forward. "Madison, this isn't your fault. I didn't ask for this attention." Her eyes snapped up, blazing. "But you didn't stop it either." Her words cut deep, but beneath her anger, I heard fear. Real, raw fear. I took a breath, steadying myself. "Tell me the truth, Madison. If you could take it back, everything, the challenge, the dinner, the moments we've had, would you?" She froze, her eyes glistening though she blinked it away quickly. Silence stretched between us until she whispered, "No, I wouldn't." I stepped closer, close enough to feel the storm raging inside her. Then stop pretending this doesn't matter. Stop pretending I don't matter. For a heartbeat, she just stared at me, trembling with the weight of everything she never let herself feel. And then, as if something inside her snapped, Madison grabbed my collar, pulled me toward her, and kissed me. It wasn't for show, it wasn't for her staff, it was real. The kiss hit me like lightning, powerful, unexpected, undeniable. For all her walls, her control, her unshakable image, Madison Carter kissed me like a woman who'd been starving for something real. When she pulled back, her breathing was uneven. For the first time since I'd met her, Madison looked uncertain, vulnerable, human. "This is insane," she whispered, turning away. "You're a single father. I'm a CEO with enemies in every corner. We don't make sense." I stepped closer, gently taking her hand before she could retreat behind her desk. "Madison, life doesn't have to make sense to be worth it. My little girl, she's all I have, and for years I thought that was enough. But now, I realize I want more. I want this. I want you." Her eyes softened, her grip tightening in mine. "And what about the whispers? The headlines? My board?" I smiled faintly. "Let them whisper. Let them write. Let them circle. You've built an empire without needing anyone, but maybe it's okay to let someone stand beside you for once." Silence filled the room. She searched my face as if looking for a crack, a reason to push me away. But she found none. Instead, she found the truth. I wasn't here for her money, her power, or her image. I was here for her. At that moment, the office phone rang. She ignored it. For the first time, Madison Carter ignored business. Instead, she whispered, "Then don't walk away from me, Jack. Not now. Not ever." I pulled her into my arms, holding her like I'd hold something I'd fight the world to protect. For once, she didn't resist. She leaned into me, letting herself be held, her armor falling piece by piece. Later, when I went home, Lily was waiting on the couch, half asleep. She looked up with sleepy eyes and asked, "Daddy, did the girl like your hair?" I laughed softly, tucking her in. "Yeah, sweetheart, she did." And as I kissed my daughter goodnight, I realized my life had changed forever. I wasn't just the small-town handyman anymore. I was the man who made the untouchable CEO let herself feel again. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, the broken pieces of my life were finally coming together.